Welcome back to The Serial Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Anna Wood. On today's episode, I'm joined by Jo Stevens, the Managing Director of Oxford Innovation Space. We discuss being founded by the University of Oxford's first spin-out, how the organisation encourages the creation of regional innovation ecosystems, and winning the Reader's Choice Award at the Hustle Awards 2025. Let's dig in. Hi Jo, welcome to the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So we begin every episode with our signature icebreaker question, which is what's your favourite breakfast cereal and why?
So for many years I didn't eat cereal at all because I don't really like milk, and so I wouldn't have been able to answer that question. But in more recent times, I've started having for breakfast a cereal called Surreal, Surreal, which is a high protein, high fiber, low sugar, and actually tastes good. And so I have that pretty much every morning with some yogurt, berries, and cinnamon.
Oh, lovely. Which flavour though?
Well, I like the chocolate one the best, but I do also quite like the the caramelly one as well, biscuit caramelly type one. But I used to order, they do sort of selection boxes of the full size, and I used to order six of selection ones, and then I realized the only ones I was really eating were the chocolate. So now I just get a delivery of six chocolate ones every now and then.
Honestly, that's fair enough. I've also tried the chocolate ones, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, no, they're good. There's a new one out actually, which I got a free sample of the other day, which is very similar. I can't remember the name of it now, but that's quite nice. They're sort of balls rather than the hoops.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to check it out. So, to begin, would you be able to also introduce yourself and tell me a bit about your background?
Yeah, so Jo Stevens, I'm the Managing Director of Oxford Innovation Space. I'm actually in November of this year, I will have worked for the company for 25 years. So I've probably done most jobs in the company in that 25 years as well. So when I joined to open two of our innovation spaces, one in South Oxfordshire and one which was going to be our first centre actually outside of Oxford. So as our name suggests, we were founded in Oxford, and 25 years ago we opened our first innovation space outside of Oxfordshire in Bracknell, and I opened that one. Prior to joining Oxford Innovation, if I can remember that far back, I was working supporting social enterprises and early stage startups in Oxford and in Reading, but more focused on sort of more general business support and running training courses for people who had low educational attainment and were thinking about starting a business. So it was a bit of a change when I moved to Oxford Innovation. Yeah, obviously staying 25 years, I've loved it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a long time to spend in a company. So it really shows.
It is. I was only gonna stay for 2 years. That was my sort of my career plan, was stay for a couple of years and then find something else to do. But I guess I just loved what we do so much and really enjoyed working for the company and seeing the companies that we supported go on to do great stuff. That yeah, I guess I was hooked. And so I think I am now the longest serving member of staff. So yeah, in November it's 25 years.
Wow. So this place that you love so much, what is Oxford Innovation Space and what are you trying to achieve?
So it's probably worth me just reflecting a bit on our history and why we were founded, because I think that then sort of tells the story of what we do now. So we were originally a wholly owned subsidiary of a charity, and that charity was called the Oxford Trust, and that had been set up by Sir Martin and Lady Audrey Wood, who were the founders of a company called Oxford Instruments. And Oxford Instruments was the very first Oxford University spin-out company. So in 1959, they set up Oxford Instruments, and I guess it's sort of legend now. And I guess if you say something often enough, it becomes true. I really hope it is true, but the sort of the story is that Oxford Innovation was set up to provide the support to early stage and startup technology and innovation led companies that they wanted in 1959 for Oxford Instruments but couldn't find. So that was access to flexible workspace. So they started Oxford Instruments in their garden shed, building a magnetic resonance for body scanners, for example, in their garden shed. So but they would have really valued some flexible workspace. They wanted access to good quality business support, targeted and tailored for innovative technology companies, and also access to early stage finance. So that bit of funding between what you can raise yourself and what a venture capitalist will fund, which now typically we know is filled by the likes of business angels and things like EIS and SEIS funds. And so the original Oxford Innovation was set up to do those three things: flexible workspace, business advice and support, and access to early stage finance. As you'll know, because our sister company, Oxford Innovation Finance, also entered the Hustle Awards, we're now sort of in three parts of Oxford Innovation. So there's Oxford Innovation Finance, which is the business angel networks. There's Oxford Innovation Advice, which is the government funded business support programs. And then there's Oxford Innovation Space. And what we provide is flexible workspace, whether that is offices, labs, workshops, for innovative technology, knowledge based, and science based companies. We started in Oxford nearly 40 years ago in some porter cabins, and we've now grown to a network of 900 or so companies across England, Northern Ireland, and Ireland in 30 plus innovation spaces, just under 1 million square foot of space. And that space is everything from offices to co-working space to meeting rooms to event space to drop-in lounges and cafes. And it's basically the sort of space that a startup needs, but all in one place, a bit like typical serviced office space that you might find from WeWork or Regus. But the difference is we also then provide business support to all of the companies in our centres. So that's the critical bit that we then deliver. We want them to grow, we want them to thrive, and we actually want them to move out. So we want them to get so successful that they leave us, and that we then celebrate their success and they've moved into their own premises somewhere locally. So that's really what we do. It's all about us creating spaces for startups, early stage, innovative technology companies to thrive and grow.
That's amazing. So, what kind of support do you offer to startups, both kind of services and programs?
So, in each of our centres, we have a member of staff whose job it is to support those companies. And that typically ranges from one-to-one coaching and mentoring. So they might sit down with a company and go through their business plan, advise them on where they can get other support or funding from. It also often is the sort of one-to-many type opportunities as well. So we run a lot of workshops. We do that with quite a lot of partners. So we might work with a local accountancy firm or patent agent or legal firm who specialize in particular issues that typically we focus on the sort of support that innovative technology companies might need. So that's sort of, if they've got regulatory issues that they need to address, if they've got trademark or patent issues because they're dealing with complex IP, if they need to raise money and they need to get pitch ready, then all of those sorts of things that those sorts of companies might need because they're going to go through serious rounds of funding or incarnation or quite rapid growth. We also then, obviously, it's one of the benefits for them of being in one of our centres is that they're co-located with lots of other interesting companies and entrepreneurs and people probably going through similar things to them. So we do a lot to bring those groups together. So we have quite a lot of peer-to-peer type meetings and events where we're bringing together CEOs or senior people, but also then just some social stuff. Because, one of the reasons why we go to work is to meet other people, and being an entrepreneur can be really lonely. So for us, one of the things that we can provide is a space where they can also meet other people in a social environment, can relax, and they can focus on then hopefully getting back to their business and working on making it grow.
Yeah, that's great. I think, what do you think differentiates Oxford Innovation Space from kind of the competitors that are out there currently?
So I think it's just that. So we are very focused on the companies and what they need to grow. And we don't just pay lip service to that. So we have members of staff who are dedicated to that. Lots of people say they provide support to startups, and lots of organizations say they run innovation spaces. And then when you actually look at what they're doing, I would say it's not really that differentiated. There are lots of great serviced office operators out there, but we are quite different to them. The other bit is that we typically tend to be in quite a lot of places where other operators aren't. So some of our innovation spaces are in places where a local authority has recognized that that place needs an intervention to encourage businesses to be successful. And so quite a lot of our innovation spaces are in towns and cities that are not the big sort of London, Manchester, but they're in, places where actually what you're trying to do is to create an opportunity for businesses to thrive and grow. So they don't have to go to some of the big cities, and those smaller places don't then lose that talent to other places. So I think that's another difference. We work very closely with universities, so we're on a number of university campuses. We're also on some large research sites such as Harwell and Culham in Oxfordshire. And I guess that breadth of expertise that we have and working in different locations across a range of sectors is also quite different. So a number of our competitors are probably sector focused, so they only work with life sciences or biotech companies. We work across any sector as long as it's innovation or technology or knowledge base led, then we will work with that company, and we will work in that space.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're really encouraging kind of more regional ecosystems to come up rather than getting people, as you said, to go to like London or Manchester or the big hubs and really actually trying to, instead of making the cities bigger, instead kind of like improving innovation across all areas.
Yeah, exactly that. And actually, I mean, place is a really big part of how we think about what we do. So, our mission includes a statement about what we're doing helps local economies thrive. So we're helping the companies to thrive, but actually that in turn helps those local economies and those places to thrive. And that's really important to us. And if you look at the way in which we position each of our centres, it has a brand that is absolutely embedded in that place. So we don't call them Oxford Innovation Space. In fact, actually, I'm often asked, how would we even know Oxford Innovation Space runs this? And that's probably, maybe that's to our detriment. But actually, each of our buildings is branded according to the place that it's in. So in Belfast, we run the Innovation Factory. In Bristol, we run Future Space on the University of West England campus. In Fareham, we run Fareham Innovation Centre. In Manchester, where we've got several, each of the buildings is branded according to its place. So we run an innovation space in an old Victorian swimming baths in Thameside, and it's called in Ashton-under-Lyne, and it's called Ashton Old Baths because that plays to the history, but also there's a nice play on their sort of AOB and any other business type acronym. So each place is really important to us, and it's important to us that we have a role in supporting local economies as well as local businesses.
So in the question where I asked about your competitors, and you said how some of your competitors they focus on certain sectors within the space, whereas you will look at anyone. What kind of startups have you found tend to thrive within your centres?
I mean, I think so. Although we will work across any sector, what we tend to find is that each of the centres does end up with a sector focus, or the there is a sort of gateway policy. So we're already being selective in a way. So we're sort of selecting companies that we think will thrive. But the ones that tend to thrive the most, I guess, are the ones who engage the most, actually, and therefore get the benefit of all of the other support that we provide. You do find some companies who who don't really engage and don't really benefit from that co-location and, all of the people that are around them and that can help them. And then suddenly they go bust, and you're like, well, if only we'd known, we could have helped you. We all know, those of us that work in with startup companies, that, you know, there are lots of things that can cause you to fail. And if you look at the business survival rate in the UK over the first 5 years, it is still quite low. We're really proud that our survival rate of the companies across our centres is much higher. It's about a 90% survival rate. But that doesn't mean that there aren't companies that still struggle. And I think certainly in more recent years, with the sort of volatility in the economy, the challenges around funding in particular, on the back of that, those companies that do seek out help and support do still tend to be the ones that thrive and do well. And then you always have some who don't get any help and support, but are absolutely flying because what they've got is the most amazing business and idea in the world, and that, they don't really need help. They just need money and a good place to work, and that's absolutely fine. We don't make it a criteria that or a condition that companies have to use our support, but we're there if they need us.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. And kind of like the stat you were saying, how so many of the companies within your spaces do thrive and don't fail. I think that's really impressive as well.
Yeah, we're really proud of that, actually. And I mean, obviously we only play a small part in their success, but it I think we do create an environment in which success is celebrated. And that whole piece about, we celebrate when somebody moves out is quite rare. I mean, obviously that financially affects us, but our job is to help the companies grow so that they will leave us.
So I think kind of like you work not just in the workspace market, but there's more. But the workspace market has seen a real shift in the last couple of years. Have you seen any significant change in what founders are looking for in a space in the last few years?
Well, I think what founders are looking for hasn't necessarily changed enormously. I think the thing that has changed is what they know their staff are looking for. So we know that, well-being aspects to workspace are a lot more important, and when they are, as founders, when they are in competition for the brightest talent to come and work for their company, what they want is a really nice working environment that will attract people to come and work for them. So part of what we know we have to do is respond to what their staff are likely to want. So those sort of well-being things, having spaces where people can relax, where they can chill out, where putting on activities to bring people together. So we've had things like gardening clubs pop up, where there are lunchtime walks, yoga happening in our centres. But I also think spaces where they're well located, easy to get to. We're also very focused on the net zero and the carbon emissions of each centre. And I think that's becoming more and more important to staff of the companies that we see in our centres. So they want to see that we're recycling, they want to know what we're doing. And those sorts of things matter much more than they used to. As well as, we all want good coffee and good Wi-Fi. So, we've always sort of looked at it as there are certain things now that are just a given in that sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Good coffee and Wi-Fi are right there at the bottom of what everybody wants. And if you haven't got that, no one's going to move in. I think that's just become more important. But we also, I mean, the other thing is that, we certainly see access to equipment and specialist facilities becoming more important in some places too. But fundamentally, I don't think it's changed enormously. I just think the big thing that's changed is that people don't want to travel very far, and people want good amenities in their workspaces, and they're more and more important. And I think they'll only become more important over the coming years, particularly, post COVID, when we've all been working at home and could go out and get fresh air whenever we wanted and have a nice environment around us. I think that's become even more important.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of wanted to move on to the reason why we're here, which is Oxford Innovation Space won the Reader's Choice Award at the Hustle Awards this year. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So how did that make you feel, and what does that mean for the company?
Well, the first thing it made me feel was quite surprised, I have to say, given who we were up against. And I was sort of thinking, could little old us really garner that much support, I guess? And I think that that's the thing that has meant the most. And look, this is, Oxford Innovation Space is a team of 150 people who most of whom work far closer to the companies in our centres than I do. And so really the award, I think, was for all of our centre teams because they had absolutely garnered support from the customers in our centres. We benefited from having a community of 900 startups, a lot of whom voted for us and told us afterwards that they had voted for us. And I guess that's the bit that for us was the most important thing. I'm not at all saying that we wouldn't have been delighted to win one of the other awards judged by the judges. But for us to be judged by our startups that we work with, that was the thing that meant the most. And that was the thing that certainly meant the most to our team, I think. There was also a nice little bit of healthy rivalry between Oxford Innovation Space and Oxford Innovation Finance. So that was one of the things that we also like. Nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy rivalry between sister companies. But look, yeah, for us, the thing that was just so nice was that it was actually genuinely voted for by our customers, and they wanted us to have some recognition for the work that we've been doing over the last coming up for 40 years. So that was really nice.
Yeah, and I think if anything, obviously winning a category judged for by the judges is amazing as well. Always competition for the awards is very tight. But I think for to win the Reader's Choice, you're up against everyone at that point. So it is like winning that is such an impressive feat, especially as we get hundreds of votes and knowing that so many people would have voted for you out of everyone else. That must just be amazing.
Yeah, no, it was, and I think we were absolutely thrilled. I'd put my sunglasses back on my head when we hadn't won our category award, and then when you started announcing it, and I was like, oh my God, that's us. Before you'd even said our name, because you sort of described us, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to go up on stage. So yeah, we were not expecting to win that. So we were absolutely thrilled. And yeah, any award is nice. We don't enter many awards actually. I think that's the other bit. We haven't really focused on ourselves ever. Really, we focus more on the companies that we work with. So it was nice for once to recognise our own contribution and to have that voted for by our customers. Just made it even more meaningful, I guess.
Definitely. So, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges on the Oxford Innovation Space journey?
Well, look, it'll be our 40th anniversary in 2027, so I'm sure that there have been lots of challenges. I mean, clearly, changes or issues in the economy, so recession can create challenges. The sort of volatility of across the world, really globally, always has an impact on, the confidence of businesses. And for us, the confidence of businesses and investors is absolutely critical to our success. We need people to feel confident about starting and running businesses, and we need investors confident and prepared to take the risk in investing in those businesses for us to have customers that want to move into our spaces. So absolutely, those sorts of challenges are, regular things that we have had to deal with over our history, and probably never more so than in recent years. It does feel at the moment like it's sort of one thing after another, really, post COVID. I mean, clearly, COVID in itself was a massive challenge for us. We're an organisation who runs workspaces, and everybody was told to work from home. And so that immediately makes you think, oh my gosh, how on earth are we going to survive this? But we did, and I think it's testament to our team and our centres and our clients and our customers that we did. One of the things we realised was that the sorts of companies that we work with often can't work at home. So if they need lab or workshop space, you can't just suddenly uproot that and put that at home. And actually, therefore, keeping our buildings open through COVID was absolutely crucial for us in order to keep supporting those companies. We also then launched a virtual business support network to so that we could still provide support to those companies. So I think although that was a challenge, actually we learned a lot about the resilience of us and and the businesses in our centres, and we learned a lot about how we could pivot and change what we were doing to deal with those things. And I think also just there has been a massive growth in flexible workspace across the world, and certainly in the bigger cities, it's become a far more competitive market. But that's why we've spent a lot of time focusing on our differentiation and a lot of time working out who we are and what we're trying to achieve, and not trying really to compete with the big global brands, but having something that's absolutely embedded in a place that is about supporting the businesses in those places, rather than trying to compete with people, and rather than trying to just slash our prices to fill our buildings with anybody. For us, it's really important that we have the right sorts of companies in our buildings, and that we can therefore really add value to what they're doing. So lots of things that we've had to deal with. I'm absolutely certain there will be other things in the future that we can't possibly predict now. Some of the challenges that we're kind of dealing with now are, how do we use AI effectively? But lots of businesses are dealing with that. I don't see it as a way to, reduce staffing and overheads. I see it as a way to enhance what we're doing, and enable us to do more, because a lot of things can be simplified or done more quickly, but through the use of AI. And we're starting to roll some things out. So yeah, I think lots of challenges to come, I'm sure, but we've been going for nearly 40 years, so I've got a lot of confidence about our ability to deal with those again in the future.
Yeah, of course. And kind of like on the flip side of that, what would you say have been some of the more recent highlights?
Hey, look, it's always amazing when we see companies that we've supported doing really well. And we've most recently celebrated 25 years of one of our innovation centres, so the Harwell Innovation Centre in South Oxfordshire. And what was really nice, we had a sort of party, lunchtime party, one day close to the anniversary. And what was really nice was to see some of the entrepreneurs so I was around obviously 25 years ago, and so I knew a lot of the entrepreneurs that had been there in the early days. And it was really nice to see some of those people still going with their businesses, doing really well. Some that were serial entrepreneurs and were on their third or fourth business since then. And that for me is always the biggest highlight. And the thing that I love the most is just talking to the entrepreneurs. I don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. I'm an intrapreneur. I can be innovative within, a company that had already been set up for me to run. So, I love listening to entrepreneurs and the way that their mind works, and how they see opportunities in things that the rest of us wouldn't. And so just those conversations and hearing their stories of what's happened over the last 20 years or so since we maybe said goodbye to them is just, yeah, that for me is always the highlight. It's always seeing those companies, how they've done, and some of them are now employing hundreds of people and really creating value and wealth in this country. And that's just amazing. And I will never ever get tired of hearing those stories. And hey, look, I said that's one of the reasons why I stayed 25 years. So that for me is always the highlight.
Yeah, definitely. I guess seeing the impact that kind of what you're doing can make on these people, and like for someone just starting a business and then you see them 25 years later, either multiple businesses down the line or same business but it's now huge. I think that kind of jump, to be able to see that, must be so rewarding, as well as like the fact that that's kind of your mission as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it makes you feel old when you realise that it was 25 years ago we first met, and we've all got a few more grey hairs than we did. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and it's especially, I think what's really nice is that they do often remember what we did to help them in the early days and the difference that we made. And I don't think would do this job because you want that recognition from those companies, but it is always really nice when, when they write a quote for something or they speak at an event and they say how we helped them. And, that always makes you feel like you've made a difference in not only their lives, but in the lives of all of the people who subsequently have got a job with them. So, or whose lives have been changed because what they've developed is a life-changing device that's saved lots of lives. Those things they really make you feel good about the job that you do.
Yeah, I think we've done some looking back. So for my final question, I want to kind of look forward, which is, what do you think the future holds for Oxford Innovation Space? And do you have any big plans in the pipeline that you can discuss?
Yeah. So, well, we are, as I've said, 2027 will be our 40th year. We are currently at 31 centres. And so we've got a plan or an aim to get to 40 centres in our 40th year. So we have big ambitions to keep growing. So we recognise the value of what we do, and we think there are more places that could benefit from the support that we provide. So yeah, so that's sort of our big headline plan. Sort of more imminently, we've got 3 new spaces that are going to open in the next year. So one in Bolton in Greater Manchester called the Wellsprings Innovation Centre, which will literally be opening on the 1st of September. We've got another one in Crawley, the Crawley Innovation Centre, which will be opening probably a month or so later than that. And then early next year, a building in Cumbria that will be opening. So lots to keep us going, both for the next couple of years and then also sort of imminently big plans and big things afoot with 3 new innovation centres that, again, between them we'll be able to house another 150 or so startup companies in those areas, places where there isn't currently an innovation centre. And so we're absolutely thrilled to be working with partners there to bring an innovation space to those towns and cities.
Yeah, that's really amazing to hear that there's kind of like even more on the horizon and more kind of growing and being able to help more people.
Yeah, and I mean it's quite, for us, we've gone through various periods of growing quite rapidly, and I think that puts us in a really unique position. We're a growing business who is supporting growing businesses. That means that we understand quite a lot of the pains that they're going through, but also, the moments to celebrate when something you've been working on for a long time comes off. So the building in Bolton in Greater Manchester has been, a few years in the making, and so we're absolutely delighted that that's about to open, and the first companies have started moving in, and that for us is just, yeah, it's amazing to see, and yeah, lots still to come, definitely. I may have been here 25 years, but I'm not going anywhere just yet.
Well, that's good to hear. And I think my final quick fire question is, there anything else you wanted to add or plug at the end of the podcast?
No, I like to say, thank you very much for we were shortlisted obviously for an award, and then we won the Hustle Award. It is nice to have recognition. We are delighted. Continue doing the great stuff you're doing, highlighting what startups are doing and what they need, because I think, they are the sort of unsung heroes of the economy, really. We need more support for startups, not less. So it would be great if the government could put more funding into it and more support into it, more tax breaks into it, rather than making it harder for businesses. So keep waving that flag for startups. And thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thank you for everything that Oxford Innovation Space is doing. Obviously, you're supporting so many startups, so really, you are also a part of that. But yeah, it's been amazing speaking with you and learning more about what Oxford Innovation Space does, how you support startups, and obviously catching up about the awards as well. So thank you for coming on the podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out Startup Magazine's socials to stay up to date on the latest startups news.